Hello, and welcome back to the Misty Morrison podcast. I'm your host, Misty Morrison, and this is episode 72 of Was I in the Wrong? Here on the Misty Morrison podcast, we love to read or listen. We love to give advice. We love to help people look back on their stories with that 2020 vision to see how they could have handled their situations more gracefully. Before we get into the stories for today, our usual housekeeping, whether you are new or returning, please remember to engage with content to help the channel grow. Every bit of online engagement is free and can help me build the dream. I'm all thrown off because I'm not in my cozy corner. Yes. Engage with the content, give it a thumbs up, a heart, subscribe for more, hit the bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. Leave a comment with your thoughts on the stories down below. Share it with a friend. Subscribe for more. I think I already said that one. You know the drill. Long form content goes live on podcast and YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday. Short form content goes live across YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook 3 times daily. Okay, now we will address the location. When I am recording this, I am in Decatur, just outside of Atlanta, Georgia. This is my first time coming to Decatur. Really nice hotel. I am loving it. Got to go back to Ray's New York Pizza, my favorite place in Atlanta, for dinner this afternoon. Had a good slice of 4-cheese pizza, some garlic knots were the bomb, and strawberry margarita for the win. Trying to think right now when I'm recording this, because I live in Central Time. We're on Eastern Time now. Not a big difference, but when you're recording at 11:44 p.m. Eastern, so it feels like 12:44 a.m. on your body clock, you can feel the difference. So we are going to try to get through 2 episodes recording tonight. One Was I in the Wrong and one Penny Please. And then 2 more tomorrow night, my last night here in Decatur. So let's get into it so I can get done, shower, and get in that bed. Okay, story number 1 is coming to us from r/am I overreacting? And this one does have one big picture and then text below it. AIO, my manager keeps questioning my feeding pump at work even after HR stepped in. And so this is the picture, which I believe is a copy of an email. I want to follow up regarding recent discussions about interruptions during shifts. I understand that HR has reviewed your situation and confirmed your accommodations, and I'm not questioning that. However, I do want to reiterate that frequent disruptions on the floor can impact team workflow and concentration, especially during peak periods. While I recognize this may be outside of what can be formally adjusted through HR, I would still ask that you remain as mindful as possible about timing and visibility of equipment use so that interruptions to others are kept to a minimum. This is not meant as a criticism, but rather a request to consider how this affects the broader team environment. When you say this may be outside of what can be formally adjusted through HR, you are saying for her to go outside of what HR has approved. I already heard that. So for the text. Hi, I posted last week about issues with my feeding pump at work, and my manager sending a passive-aggressive email about disruptions. HR got involved and were actually supportive. They confirmed my medical accommodation is valid and basically said I'm not doing anything wrong. They said they talked to my manager and everything was fine until today. I thought that would be the end of it, honestly, but now there's been another development and I feel kind of embarrassed and unsure if I should escalate again or just drop it and stop being so overdramatic about the whole thing. Since the first issue, my manager has still been acting off. He's made a few comments about me stepping away and once even asked me to explain how my feeding pump works, which felt a bit condescending, but I tried to brush it off. It wasn't anything overtly rude and I could work around it, so I didn't care all that much. Then today he sent another email directly to me. I attached it so everybody can read without me having to explain. It felt weird and just like he was crossing a boundary, like he's acknowledging I'm allowed to have the accommodation, but also kind of implying I shouldn't be using it in a way that affects anyone else at all, which it isn't, and my coworkers have reassured me they aren't bothered and don't care in the slightest. HR already said everything is fine on their end, so now I don't know if I'm just being too sensitive or if this is actually still worth bringing back up again. I don't want to create any drama or risk my job because this truly is a job I enjoy, but I just feel kind of awkward and singled out at this point, and I'm unsure if escalating to HR again is the right decision. Edit 1 to clarify, it is not a breastfeeding pump. I didn't think it was. I need a feeding pump, which is a tube going right into my stomach to feed me. It has to be connected 20 hours a day. Okay. Am I overreacting? No. No. Your manager is quite obviously trying to skirt around the accommodations that HR approved for you because he doesn't like them, despite the fact that the rest of the team said they are not affected, that it doesn't bother them. It only bothers your manager. I don't know if it's because he is uneducated on medical accommodations or this type of situation or what, but going further into it, asking you to explain your medical equipment was definitely crossing a boundary. It was unnecessary. He's not entitled to that information as your manager. So I would absolutely forward this email to HR and let them know how he has still been acting differently towards you since this first came up with HR, that he is still trying to make adjustments that don't align with the approved accommodations, and he's still singling you out. He's making you feel uncomfortable. Tell them everything. They've already been supportive, so I think they'll continue to be supportive of you. Tell them everything, and hopefully they will be able to educate your manager where he can be kinder at the least. Okay. So, not overreacting, you were right. Take it back to HR. Story number 2 is coming to us from r/AITA weddings. Would I be the asshole? Problematic behavior on bachelorette equals no longer a bridesmaid. TLDR, childhood best friend did not pass the vibe check, got drunk and argumentative, threw up an Uber and on Uber driver, required my other friends to babysit her throughout the trip, did not apologize to anyone or attempt to repair relationships. Even the TLDR is bad. And this is a good long one. I, 28 female, had 7 friends join me on my recent bachelorette trip. On the first night, I ended up having a pretty bad anxiety attack. The friends who were still awake were awesome and helped me through it, and I made the decision that I would not drink on day 2 to avoid further anxiety. However, I didn't care if other people on the trip still drank. I had been the only sober one many times, and we already purchased a bunch of house alcohol that I didn't want to waste. That being said, mostly everyone understood that because this was my batch. It made sense to match my vibe and therefore take it easy. Casual drinking, no one getting beyond, just a good buzz. Except childhood bestie, M. None of us really noticed her level of drinking throughout the day while we were at the pool or even in the evening on the party bus. She was a bit behind the group, still with one other girl, B, not alone. When we got to the bar, I didn't notice her stumbling, but the bouncers did not want to let her in due to her intoxication. M argued her way in, and as soon as she joined us in our section, it was obvious she was way too drunk. Took her shoes off, couldn't stand, head was rolling, slurring her words. It was like 0 to 100. She continued to try to get alcohol despite each one of my friends telling her to stop. Finally, I said, screw it, let's just go home. We were bummed, but I wanted to avoid an issue if M got kicked out. Left the bar much earlier than planned. Cousin C calls an Uber van for all 8 of us. I sit in the back row. M is in the front row with B, and I didn't know this until we got to our house, but as soon as we got in the van, M threw up on the floor and on the Uber driver. Continued to vomit throughout 15-minute ride. B and C got her out of the van, and she continued to vomit on the street. My friends had to clean up the Uber while M went into the bathroom and continued to vomit in the toilet and tub. Once the Uber was clean, B and C managed to bathe M. It took over 2 hours because she continued to get sick and was being otherwise difficult, while the rest of us started to clean the house because we were leaving the next morning. We set up M's bed with trash bags and towels in case she continued to get sick. In the morning, we all got up and continued to clean the house for checkout. I was supposed to see M awake, but I was even more surprised that instead of helping to clean up, she sat on a lounge chair by the pool. After all the chaos she caused the night before, she didn't even help clean up. Instead, she watched all of us clean, commented on how full the trash was, and walked past us to go from the pool to the couch to continue to just watch. This made me feel like she had no remorse. She also did not give a great apology. She did not apologize to B and C or thank them for their amazing help. She did not apologize to the group. She couldn't make eye contact with me when she lamely said, "Sorry for being a problem child." I should note that she is a well-practiced drinker. This is not a case of didn't know her limit, because she drinks most days of the week anyway. She has a high tolerance, so it was shocking to me that she was even capable of getting this level the way she did. I'm not sure if she knows the extent of it. She did ask C if she made it into the house before getting sick, to which C told her not even close. So she must have known it was bad. Plus, waking up with the trash bags and towels surrounding you is never a good sign. And we canceled all of our plans for the third day because everyone just wanted to get the heck out of there, especially me. I couldn't risk another anxiety attack. I think I could have forgiven her if she attempted to apologize and put some effort into helping out in the morning. But now it just feels like she doesn't even care that she had such a negative impact on the trip. My feelings on this are complicated because she has been a friend for almost 25 years. Our friendship is closely tied to some of my other childhood friendships as well as my parents' friendships. I know that removing her as a bridesmaid will effectively end the friendship, but I don't know if I can really ever have the same relationship with her ever again. I don't think it's worth keeping her in the bridal party just to keep the peace when our friendship will likely fizzle out after the wedding anyway. Am I even right for feeling this way? Would I be an asshole for demoting her because she got too drunk? No, I don't think so. Because how are you supposed to know that she won't do the same thing at your wedding and get drunk and sick and act the same way? You'd hope when someone has acted that way, they will realize it and they won't do it again. But she has no remorse. She didn't apologize. So clearly she doesn't see a problem with her behavior. So I definitely think demoting her is the right thing to do, or removing her entirely so that you don't have to worry about her drama on the day of. I'm so tired. My body feels crawly. Yeah, I mean, she ruined your weekend. You guys left the bar earlier than planned because of her. You canceled all your plans the next day because of her. And even when she felt better, she chose not to help. She went to the pool and enjoyed herself when it was your trip for you to be enjoying yourself. She should be ashamed of herself. She was not a good friend. It really just sounds like she took advantage of the opportunity to get drunk. That's it. So, no, you are right. Okay. Story number 3 is coming to us from r/AITA_relationships. AITA for telling my boyfriend of 7 years to sleep at his sister's house. Hi, I have a situation. I, 27 female, am considering breaking up with my boyfriend, 29 male, over. Recently, Owen, my long-term boyfriend, has been really snappy and honestly acting like an asshole. I usually don't look through his phone, but when he was in the shower, I saw he got a text from his ex, Brianna. She had said, and I quote, "Hey, let's talk." I trusted him, so I put the phone back where I found it and pretended nothing happened. What I didn't know was that he'd been talking to her for months. This was 3 months ago, and I thought that was the end of it. Now he's telling me Brianna is getting married and he's invited to the wedding because he wants to be supportive. All I asked is, "Okay, when are we going?" And to that, he got super defensive and told me to stop being so worried and trust him, and that I was totally blowing it out of proportion. I didn't even mean it to be smart. I put it off and walked away because I wasn't trying to argue. My dad had just gotten into the hospital after having a heart attack, so I had too much on my plate to worry about a silly thing like that. A few days later, I tried to ask if he needed a suit or anything, and he wouldn't tell me anything. He started blushing and again got super defensive. I don't know how to handle this alone, but I tried my best. I told him if he was going to be immature and lie to me, he had to get out of my house, because he didn't pay a single bill. He kept insisting it wasn't that serious, but I don't believe him. He went to his sister's house and has been sleeping there for a while. We have been in contact, and he says he won't break up with me if I admit I was wrong. I can't help but think he's cheating. AITA, any advice is appreciated. Update, I have a job early today, so as some of you guys said, I packed up his stuff and called his sister to let her know. She said he was not staying there at all, and he basically lied. I left it there anyways. I texted him I was breaking up with him, and all ties are now cut. Good for you. Um, yeah, I think you I think you were right. Like, he had opportunities to be honest, to be forthcoming about the relationship, and he chose not to do that. The blushing and the getting defensive is his behavior, his responses were really what led you to believe that he was cheating. Like, you even offered to go to his ex's wedding with him to be supportive of him, and he threw a fit about it. That's weird behavior, and especially when you found out later that he lied about where he was staying, that is the final nail in the coffin. So no, you're right. I'm glad you broke ties. I'm glad you broke up with him. Story number 4 is coming to us from r/AITA underscore relationships. AITA for calling off our marriage. My fiance, male 31, and I, female 33, have been engaged for 5 years. Overall, we've been together for 10 years. We own a home and we have a small child. There are several reasons why we didn't get married sooner. Example, finances, schedule, life changes, etc. Be that as it may, we agreed that in May 2026 we will go to the courthouse and get married. When I first got pregnant, my fiance questioned my fidelity and asked if our child was his. He says it's because I went on a co-ed trip without him that he was invited to. Although I was highly offended and hurt, I agreed and purchased the at-home paternity test once our child was born. He did not take the test. I can't lie, that accusation has been eating me up for years. Him bringing that to my attention while I was pregnant and not following through ate me up inside. Now let's head to the beginning, when we started dating. He confided in me that he thinks he may be a father to a 1-year-old boy, even though the mother said it wasn't his. It was originally between him and another guy, but they never took a DNA test. She felt it was unnecessary and raised her son with the other man. Since then, we've rarely talked about it, until recently. I brought it up. I expressed that I'm still extremely hurt, and I believe the experience he had with that girl made him project his fears onto us. His response? He's been haunted about the thought of him being his son, and he'd like to pursue this legally before we get married. But my thoughts are, we've been together 10 years. We're a couple weeks away from getting married, and you want to bring this up now? We've been having such a difficult time financially, I can't imagine bringing another kid into the mix, especially with me being the breadwinner. And what if he causes issues in someone's happy home because of this? What if the boy is not ready for that? And what if he really isn't the father? I'm overwhelmed with feelings. A part of me wants counseling, and another part wants to end things completely. I want to be with him, but I'm scared of how this will affect our lives now. AITA for not being willing to make this work anymore. Oh. Right at the beginning, I was concerned about the 5-year engagement. That's a long time. Because, like, at this point, you're going to go to the courthouse, which means your only wedding costs, in my mind, is going to be the marriage license fee, which is not that much. It's not like you're having a party, buying a dress, renting a suit, all the things. You are just going to the courthouse and getting married. So there's all of the things that you listed: finances, schedule, life changes, are not a reason when you're not having a wedding, when you just want to get married, are not reasons why it took 5 years for you guys to get here to get married. So in the 10 years that you've been together, you have built a life together, you own your home, you have a small child. I I think now that things are coming up and you guys are talking about them, I would like to see you try to work it out. And when I say that, I mean let him know your concerns, how you want things addressed, and that he needs to get counseling for his pre-existing insecurities. So as far as how you want things addressed, you said that it's been eating you up that he made that accusation, never followed through on it. Tell him these are your requirements for staying. He needs to take the paternity test for your child so you can be done with that doubt that he has. Let's see. Paternity on your child. You want to do that. And bring up your concerns about the other child. If he wants to pursue it legally, then he needs to be able to earn enough money to handle the legal fees and that entire process himself, because that's something he wants, not something you want. And he needs to be able to financially support that child if it turns out it is his. But also, I think you need to you need to sit down with a counselor or neutral third party to discuss what happens if that child is his. If the child is his, he proves paternity, and he wants to be in that kid's life. That's going to be another child, a step sibling to yours, or a half sibling to yours. And another mouth to feed. Like you said, you're the breadwinner. He needs to be prepared and have a plan, and you also need to figure out where you would fit in that equation. Are you willing to also be a part of that child's life? Or if it turns out that he is the father, is that automatically you walking away anyway? So maybe you need to go to counseling by yourself first to find out where you stand on that issue. And then once you know more, once you understand your feelings and your thought process better, then take it to him and say, hey, these are my concerns. This is what I need to be addressed either by you or by us mutually for this to continue. And marriage should be off the table until everything is addressed and you're on the path to healing. Okay, that is 4 stories for this week's episode of Was I in the Wrong? Thank you so much for being here for another episode of the Misty Morrison podcast. Remember, start each day with a grateful heart. Kindness changes everything, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Well, I didn't click the button.